There was something in the China context which we didn't get to with Palmer, which was a piece of recent news with President Xi reiterating, I would say, a long-stated goal of reunification with Taiwan. Now, the reason I want to start there, Jacob, is in your efforts with Pax Silica, the scenario that everyone is trying to plan for, Taiwan and access to capacity in the semiconductor side being shut off, if that scenario were to unfold. Starting 2026, could you just bring us your latest thinking on that, please?
Absolutely. And it's great to join you guys here at CES in Las Vegas, which is such a great window into American innovation and innovation from a lot of Pax Silica countries like South Korea and Japan. It's incredibly exciting that we're talking barely 3 weeks after the signing of this landmark declaration. Ultimately, let me put into context why this is so important and why so many people are talking about technology competition. Today, it's clear that if the 20th century ran on steel, the 21st century is increasingly running on silicon and compute. And we're already seeing in the United States a third of our GDP growth coming from AI, and growth picking up and accelerating as productivity is starting to accelerate growth in sectors across the economy. So back in July, President Trump rolled out this landmark speech at an event I co-hosted with White House AI czar David Sachs called Winning the AI Race, where it was a landmark moment where he declared that the U.S. is set to win the AI race and that it is the official policy of the U.S. government to do whatever it takes. A few months later, I'm happy to report that at the State Department, we have adopted a strategy that breaks down this broad goal into 3 parts. We want to help the U.S. government win the AI race by leading in innovation, by gaining market share, and by securing our supply chains. So we launched Pax Silica with a group of 7 countries, and they are the most technologically advanced countries, including Japan, South Korea, which is home to Samsung, SK Hynix, Mitsubishi. And we are engaged in a lot of intensive talks to now transition to the implementation phase of Pax Silica in 2026.
A lot of your anxiety, and you've been at this for a very long time, trying to warn the United States and those in positions of power, and now in the power that you have yourself, that we shouldn't be exposed to China in the way that we have been. Now, from a national security perspective, what do you think of the latest that maybe H200s go into China? That by this quarter, they might sign off for Alibaba, for BYD to be able to access NVIDIA's chips?
So part of the goal of winning the supply chain means we need to expand market share. And sometimes there's a bit of a tension between innovation and diffusion, because when you diffuse technology, sometimes you're compromising a little bit on innovation because more people have access to that technology, which narrows your technological edge. Part of what we're doing by exporting our H200s is making sure that the world's developers are building on top of the American stack, and we want to ensure that American models actually stay ahead through these strategic bilateral deals in countries in the Gulf, like the UAE, the Saudi Arabia, and a number of others that are on the way, but still too early to disclose here today, in order to make sure that our companies have by far the most compute capacity so that our LLMs stay ahead as well.
Jacob, on that market share bucket, the concern that many in DC outlined to us is if we don't export to the Gulf, China will. Is that the right way to think about it for America?
I think it's an opportunity. Where there is nature abhors a vacuum. We have got to fill the vacuum while we can. We have the world's best technology, and the worlds know that. And ultimately, America has thrived when we allow our innovators to actually dominate market share.
And they did dominate. NVIDIA had 95% of the market, and now Jensen Huang has 0%, and maybe he's being allowed to claw some back. Has not the horse bolted? Have we not already allowed Cambricon to grow and Huawei to grow? Are we really going to be able to clean back and have the stack of our own worldwide?
And that's exactly why we launched Pax Silica, to make sure that we have a sensible approach to exporting our best technologies while protecting our most sensitive technologies. We're having dual track conversations with our partners. We want to protect our sensitive technologies, but we have got to have a path to gain market share. And I think everyone's on the same page. everyone who joined Pax Silica understands that the world's supply chains being concentrated in one country, no matter how you feel about that country, is too risky, is too brittle, and is ultimately a liability to the global economy. And that's why we started this economic security coalition with the world's most advanced technology companies and countries in order to make sure that we diversify those supply chains.
Jacob, those companies are here at CES
right.
Las Vegas. What do you hope to achieve in the time that you have at CES?
So part of what we're looking for our roadmap in 2026 is we want to focus on policy coordination, we want to expand membership of Pax Silica, and we want to focus on infrastructure projects. The way that we view infrastructure is we want to focus on the arteries of supply chains through advanced logistics. We want to focus on the muscle might of industrial capacity, particularly with fabs, factories, and refineries. And we also want to focus on the fuel, particularly capital and energy. One of the things that's so interesting about talking with companies here is we can get to actually stress test a lot of these ideas with builders and with people who are the closest to these problems day to day.
Jacob, this week has been extraordinary from a geopolitical perspective. And I want to just get your thoughts, high level. Your view on Pax Silica is that it's sort of peace through power. Is that how we should be interpreting what's occurred, Venezuela, with Russian ships, with what continues to occur worldwide right now?
So I think at the end of the day, one of the takeaways of the events of the last few weeks is very clear that the world needs to know that the Trump administration says what it means and means what it says. I think Secretary Rubio spoke very eloquently about where the U.S. stands and the Trump administration stands on Venezuela and other issues that have been in the news like Greenland. Ultimately, the biggest threat to international norms is the Western Hemisphere and the United States being asleep at the switch while we are encroached from the north through the Arctic and from the south through Latin America. Ultimately, Pax Silica is an effort to pursue a very pragmatic approach by working with our closest technological partners to actually forge strategic investment deals and allow moving the needle in a way that actually benefits all of us. That is why this coalition is so diverse. It's very, very new. It's a completely new grouping of countries that includes players like Singapore, like Israel, the UAE, people who aren't used to being included in traditional legacy forums like the G20 and the G7. And yet these countries punch far above their weight, and we're very proud to partner with them.